Alright, hello YouTube. I am Scale Modeler, otherwise known as Mr. Jag. These two fine gentlemen are going to be our guests tonight on the first episode of the Dirty Loco Podcast. This podcast will be about the following: railroads, how they affect the world and how we help stay and keep them preserved, and any railroad stories, experience you want to talk about, you can talk about here. I am looking for the next participants for the next episode. So if you see this, please contact me. My email's on my Instagram. And if you two gentlemen want to introduce yourselves, by all means, go right ahead.
Hello, YouTube. I'm Zion, or better known as Z Photography, or Zion Train Guy on Instagram, I do, railroad photography. I'm part more of the younger generation of the hobby, but it's just a fun hobby, sorry I'm stuttering a little, but that's just me, and that's what I do, and I hope to be in the railroad force, working as a volunteer or as a paid employee at any railroad around me of my choosing. Hope to keep this hobby going.
Thank you, Zion.
Hello, YouTube. My name's Dan. I'm the moderator of Notch 8 Photography. I mostly shoot trains, mostly like old stuff and some new stuff, but I look for like heritage units, steam locomotives, anything that'll really draw attention, and you can find all that on my Instagram page.
All right, thank you two. Now, our first story for tonight will be about the Black River and Western, as the three of us have all been there at some point in time. If one of you wants to start off with one of your stories, by all means, please go ahead.
If you want, Dan, you can go ahead.
Where to begin with the Black River and Western? I mean, it was one of those places that I've been to as a kid, and I kind of knew that they had a steam locomotive. Okay, a little bit of backgrounds that by the time I started going, 60 wasn't out of the shop yet. She was still undergoing a extensive 1472-day restoration. But I'm sure Zion and Mr. J can relate to this. As a kid, I grew up watching a lot of train videos at home.
I still have old VHS tapes of some of the stuff that was recorded.
Same here.
Yeah, I was probably one of the only kids in my block that had a VHS tape, a VHS TV, because everyone else had the digitals and whatnot. But I had one called Tri-State Steam, and number 60 was one of the locomotives they showed there. So I knew that Black River had a steam engine. I just didn't know what was going on. I didn't know anything about a 1472 restoration. All I knew as a kid was like, throw fire in it and it'll go. But I first saw 60 in 2012 during one of its test runs. They threw it on the front end of one of the Pumpkin Express trains. And I mean, I don't know how much I remember about it, but I do remember just seeing the locomotive and writing behind it as it was being tested. And I just remember it being exceptionally loud.
60 does definitely have a bark to her.
Definitely.
Yeah, she had a 3-chime whistle, I think. It was like ear-splitting because the engineer was really laying on the whistle.
Oh, we love it when the engineer lays down those 3 chimes.
I can imagine if it's, out of the shop, yeah.
Then again, I was also a kid, so a steam locomotive to me, like I wasn't always around steam as a kid, so I wasn't used to the sounds.
Oh, yeah, same. I mean, I have a few experiences back when I was younger where my mom would just tell me that, I was attracted to the noise, but I didn't always like it in my ears all the time.
I remember my first experience with steam was out at Strasbourg, and it was the observation car on the back of the train going up the line with 90 just staring at me. And it was amazing. It was barking. I loved it. And everybody else around me had all these earplugs and stuff on, and there's just 4-year-old me just staring at this behemoth going, yes, this is amazing.
Big honking 210.
Oh, it was gorgeous.
Fitting that you mentioned 90, since she and 60 worked on the same railroad.
I actually didn't originally know that until a couple months ago, and that's why I wanted to go to the Great Western Grand Farewell, was because I wanted to see both of the Great Western engines that were still around to my knowledge.
Same here, actually. That's how I kind of became invested with 60, because back when I was a kid, not pretty much no one in my school was that invested with trains as me, so I'd actually go out of my way to kind of look up the history of which engine was which, and surprisingly, when I was 5, I found out, 60, 90, both on the same railroad, and we were in Pennsylvania at the time. I'm currently in New Jersey right now, but I always begged my mom on going to the Black River and Western just to see another fellow Great Western steam locomotive. And, for late 2021, they were running excursions with the 60 3-car passenger train, or 4, sorry. But, got my chance, and it was amazing.
Something I've always loved about the Black River and Western, even though I've only found out about them within the past 2 years. They do these cute little branch line trains. Granted, some people wouldn't say they're necessarily cute, but they don't have a whole lot of track. But the trains they have, they fit the line quite well. Trains get filled up fairly well, and it's always a show. And you have the turnaround points at Wilmington and Ringo's, where the train runs around and comes back and couples up. And you just get to watch the railroad doing the thing that it would have done decades ago in modern times. And I love it.
Funny you mentioned that. I was just going to say, when I recently went there this past April, I kind of did want to go for that like older aesthetic with the 60. I'll share some photos with you guys if you want to go check them out. Or that you can pull up on the live stream. But that's kind of my homage back to like old railroading, say, even if the engine was technically gone tender first, it was still kind of like that old feeling, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So I did share some photos.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was just saying I shared some photos in the chat if you want to go check that out.
Yeah. I was just going to say there's definitely a nostalgia to the way they operate and whatnot. What I've become fond of with the Black River and Western, especially recently, is, you go to a railroad or a railroad museum, and, each steam locomotive has a specific appearance, a specific paint scheme or whatnot. Granted, it works, but sometimes it just becomes, I don't want to say old, but I kind of want to say old. Whereas Black River and Western, the 60 has had a couple of different looks and paint scheme variations over the last couple of years. And it's kept it interesting, at least in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Since I've seen it, it's went through 3 paint schemes, from just fully blacked out with the Great Western on the cab to fully white-walled, white running boards decked out, to just, casual, no white walls and just white running board. 3 variation paint schemes. And it's pretty amazing how much time the crew just invests into this locomotive, and how they just want to see it in, whatever they feel like fits it best.
Yeah. Now that last look you mentioned, where it had the white I'm sorry, I can't speak tonight. The white running boards and the black wheels. That was the most recent appearance, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and it had the red number plate. That really sold the look.
Mm-hmm. Definitely helped with trying to get some old shots.
Well, she also had the red number plate back in the mid '80s. I think that's where they get it from.
Yep. Especially with that scheme on the tender. I think for the one charter in 2022, that's what they were trying to go through with that aesthetic. Although they had a black number plate on it, but they kept the look, and it's definitely grown on a lot of people, including me.
Yeah, when they originally did that, I think that was the way she looked in 1972. I was reading an old book that covered the Black River and Western back in the early 70s, and you'll see photos that's basically what she looked like at that time. The red number plate and everything didn't come around until like the 80s.
Yep.
I've tried pulling up the photos, but unfortunately they are looking a bit pixelated on my computer, so I'm not going to attempt to show them and disrespect them in any way. But from what I can tell, they do look absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
If your point, how the Black River and Western has just preserved the history of that locomotive so well. Even the whole railroad with this stock.
Oh yeah, definitely being is it a Pennsylvania Railroad branch? I believe so.
I believe either C&J or a Pennsy branch, yes.
Yeah, they definitely kept the Pensy look of it too, with some of the older rolling stock being Pensy heritage.
Even the Lehigh Valley boxcar they have, which is getting a repaint, is looking good.
Oh yeah.
All right, now Dan, you wanted to talk about Del?
Yes, the Belvedere and Delaware River, otherwise known as the Delaware River excursions, which I believe is a subsidiary or a sister operation to the Black River and Western. And honestly, I'm not going to say too much about it, especially since the last time I went was like not a couple years ago. My last big visit there was 2015, and that was when they had the Chinese Mikado running there.
The 142?
Yes, technically the former Susquehanna 142, but she was built for the Valley Railroad out in Connecticut first as the 1647.
Oh yeah, and then she got renumbered to 3025.
No, that was a different locomotive. Same class though.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the one that's out in Connecticut, I believe.
Yeah, they're both Class SY Mikados that were built in China for American railroads.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that those were built for the Chinese railway, but were bought by the Americans.
Nope. They were built, I believe they found it, I have to do my research, but I believe they might have found it a little bit cheaper to buy a new locomotive from China since they were still making steam engines in the late 80s.
Yeah, made sense.
Actually still have some over there that you can still buy. You just got to ship them over. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I think I may have heard something like that before too.
Wasn't 3025 the one that was owned by the Kinzua Viaduct Railroad thing?
Yep.
That closed down.
Sadly.
The railroad that was trying to buy a 282 anyway bought one from China, but it sank on the way here, so they just bought 3025.
Oh yeah, the 141.
Wait, the 141, that was actually the 141. I think that was Susquehanna that wanted that, and that's how they wound up with the 142.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the 3025 is the one that burned in that engine house fire.
Yeah. Is there any update on the second engine that was there or no?
The second engine.
The 38?
I believe that's what it was, yes.
Huntington and Broughton?
Yes. It was after the fire, it went to Everett, I think. Or it eventually made it to the Everett Railroad, and now Everett is restoring it to operating condition.
That's nice.
Amen.
So now they're going to have the number 11, the 260, and the 38.
Great photo charter opportunities considering the area.
And considering they still run freight with the 11.
Oh yeah, y'all see that new video they posted?
Which one?
I have not.
The railroad just recently posted a video of the 11 hauling some revenue freight into Hollidaysburg, and then after that, it was going to go pick up its passenger train for the day.
Oh, no kidding. I must have missed that.
Oh, yeah. It makes me want to get back up there because I've only been once, but it was I want to say it's one of the best railroad experiences I've had, but it's definitely just one of those lines that just screams like Pennsylvania, in my opinion.
Especially since they help out with 1361's restoration so much.
Oh, yeah. Them throwing the 1361's whistle on the 11 was pretty cool. I feel like that whistle, though, is bounced between locomotives because, well, not bounced. Oh, I'm thinking of the Pennsy T1 was on the 1309.
I believe 1309 has also carried 1361's whistle, but I'm not sure.
It has. They did a benefit excursion on, I believe it was October 14th of last year.
Oh, so I was right.
Although they've also done the T1 as well.
Yeah.
Aren't those whistles both Pensy 3 chimes?
Yes.
Yep. But you know, honestly,
they sound almost the exact same to me.
Yeah, that's why I just get confused when people just name it that locomotive's whistle when they just sound the exact same.
Now, I know we're getting off track here, but what is your all-time favorite whistle?
Ooh.
Good question.
I know it's an age-old question, and everybody has their own. That's why it's a mandatory question for almost every reporting I'm going to do.
Are we able to name our top 3 to 5, or do you want the number 1?
Keep it above 3.
I'll give you 2. Certainly how it's tuned. However, I'd have to say number 1 would be a Reading 6 chime, and number 2 would be a DNRGW 5 chime. However, I've never heard one. I've yet to hear one, but I just love that whistle, man.
Both fair choices. What about you, Dan?
Okay, the one I keep coming back to, the one that I can listen to over and over again in my head, a Southern Railway Long Bell 3 chime.
Oh, yeah, those are good, man.
Preferably off of a PS4 or a TS1 like the one that 1309 had this past winter.
Both?
Or, better yet, a replica that the... well, assuming that this was a replica, I don't know if it was a replica or an original. The one that 425 had a couple times.
Oh, yeah, that one.
I personally have to say my favorite is the Lehigh New England / CNJ 5 chime. To me, it just has the deepness and the pitch that just makes it so presentable, in a way of speaking. Like you feel like you're in presence of power, but not bad power.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, if we're talking power, I'm not sure if you guys have heard the 1702's new shop-built 6 chime.
I have not.
I also have not.
I've never heard it in person, but a few friends of mine who are in the area have shown me some videos of it. And, man, the amount of coaches they throw behind the 1702, coupled behind it just charges, pounds up the grade. The 6 chime just fits it. Recently, they actually just threw an N&W hooter on it. I actually watched a video on that earlier today. But, yeah, that shop-built 6, man, just screams power to me.
Respectful. I've always had a soft spot for the 6 chimes. They've always just seemed so elegant. But I've got to say my favorite class of locomotive, if you two have those as well, it's got to be the 280s. It's just those consolidations. They're just a perfectly well-rounded locomotive. You can use them for anything and everything. Branch line, freight, whatever you name it, they can do it.
280s, definitely my favorite too, but one I do also love, 462s. And what I recently found out, I'm gonna have you two both chased the 425 before?
I have.
I actually recently found out, and this is kind of why I like to call 425 the little bit, because few friends pointed out to me that 425 is actually one of the smallest Pacifics in the country.
Yeah, it is, but at the same time, it's also one of the loudest, which is confusing.
Oh yeah, very confusing. Considering it, I mean, I think 2102 definitely stole that record these past 2 years, but
It has, but that Pacific still has some bark for its boiler.
have you guys chased it up the gorge? Because that's where the sound really kicks in.
Yes, that was actually my first encounter with her back in 2020.
Oh, same here. I rode behind it.
When did you ride behind it?
I gotta say August. Yeah, I gotta say somewhere around August. I can't exactly remember the date, but I'd say around August I rode behind it in the gorge.
I think it was the first Friday that they had it. I was on the second excursion, and being the daredevil I was, I chose the first car behind the 425 and got my ears blasted.
Oh, same here, man.
And it had the 2102's whistle that weekend, a Reading 6 chime.
I got the BN03.
Yeah, I believe that was the weekend after, because originally they were going to have the 425 just do the one weekend, to my knowledge, and then they added the others.
Oh yeah.
I got to see 425's farewell, per se, back in December when it was doing the Christmas trains. And my goodness, the stack talk that she had pulling out of Outer Reading was amazing.
Wait, which day did you chase?
The last day. So right when
Oh, the 18th.
Yeah.
I chased the 17th, and I will hands down always say this is one of my favorite 425 shots. It was coming into Port Clinton. We were right under the signal bridge on the fireman's side. And it was the last run of the day, so they were definitely coming in fast. And engineer just didn't give a damn, opened up the throttle, even though they were going to stop it in like a hot minute. So he just opened up the throttle, flew past us, and we were in just the right spot in the mountain where that Reading 6, her own Reading 6, not the 2102s, just echoed all throughout the mountain. And man, that was just amazing.
I chased the 17th also, but I did Port Clinton in the morning.
Actually,
the amount of power that either one of those engines emit while pulling out of Port Clinton is godly. Like, you just hear it echoing off the walls of that valley, off the rock faces. Oh, it's just pure joy.
Actually, Dan, you said you chased 2102 in the evening like me on the August 13th, right?
Yes.
I actually got stuck in traffic around Molina, and I meant to get the 2102 going under the highway bridge on its way back to Reading. However, we missed it, but we went right over the bridge the minute 2102 went right under. And them just ripping the, like, I want to say this, they got that train up to 30 in under a minute, and I recorded it from the car. You can barely hear the stack talk, but it was just amazing.
It really speaks to how powerful and how well the T1 was designed.
That Northern will pull away with anything you throw behind it. I almost guarantee you.
100 empty hoppers and a caboose, they did.
Yep. They did it. Actually, no, the first time was 50, correct?
Yeah, 50 loaded.
Okay, because I was going to say she did it twice, but technically not. I mean, it could if they did it, but
2102, to my knowledge, has done 4 coal trains since being restored. Because they did at least 3 on the main, to my knowledge, right when they got her out of the shop painted. Another one where they actually had her run tender first, and then yet another one down the Pottsville branch.
Wasn't that last August?
September.
Oh, okay.
On the Pottsville branch.
I think I saw that in Rail Pace now that I think of it.
Mm-hmm. Right before they decided to run 2102 assisted down the Pottsville branch. I mean, there's no way it could have gone unassisted because, they were heading from Port Clinton to Schuylkill Haven. And that trip was pretty fun.
That's right. They did the Burrow Days, correct?
Yeah. Honestly, I was hoping. I mean, it would have looked cursed, but if they would have brought the 113 down just to display it in Schuylkill-Haven, because they did that a few times when they brought 425 down for Borough Days.
I remember that. And then some years they actually double-headed the 113 and the 425, but they'll never do that with the 2102. I was told that the T1s are restricted on the Minersville branch for like weight and whatnot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
T1 is a hefty chonker of a locomotive. It's not going to handle the tracks that 113 can.
Can you imagine 2102 trying to pull into Minersville on that curve?
No.
Yeah. I mean, hey, they got RDCs down there.
I'd love to see the 425 go back down there when it's done.
Subject of 425, I've heard from one of the employees, granted, I don't know how reliable that source is, but that the 425 is supposed to be making a comeback possibly before Christmas.
Really? That fast?
Those boys and those trains, they like getting them done fast, and they go play with them even more.
I mean, even so, you gotta really make sure that it's done right and that, the firebox.
It's not like it needed a complete rebuild. It was just a 1472.
Because I was also hearing something about its firebox.
The firebox has always been giving it some issues because they run it so much and so hard. But
yeah,
that's kind of just something you got to deal with.
Yeah, 425. A few of my friends have said they actually they're missing it just because they want cab rides. Because actually, we learned that the 2102 can't get a cab ride because fireman needs control of the stoker. So that's one of the reasons some of my friends want it back. I don't know why. You can just ride behind the first coach you got behind it, or if there's SD50s. But then again, though, I love those NRFF SD50s.
My dream for anything related to 425 is just be able to shove coal in that hole as much as I want.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was working on when I was part of my preservation society, was trying to get my steam certification. But we didn't have a steam locomotive that was operational, so it was kind of difficult to do that.
Oh, yeah.
On the topic of 425, what do you think is her best paint scheme over the years?
I'm partial to say the GMO black. But
the original GMO black?
Yes. But I do also love the latest coat of blue and the livery that she's had before the 1472. That blue is just gorgeous. But I also think 425 looks good in the black.
Oh, yeah.
I've already been told that she's never going to see black again, but it's still a nice image on her.
Maybe a top headlight.
Yes, that was its original configuration, where it had the high headlight and the round number plate.
And I did enjoy that look. I've always had a thing for locomotives that have the high headlight. They just look more unique to me. Yes, they look less uniform.
Oh, yeah, speak the truth, man. By the way, favorite 425 paint scheme for me, I can't exactly say everything that was on it, but if you guys remember when the Nickel Plate Road 765 went down to Jim Thorpe to, meet up kind of with the 425, I think it had, I'm not sure if the wheels were blacked out or not, but it had a really nice red on the number plate, center headlight number plate, and I just adore that livery. It didn't even matter if it had black wheels or not. I just adore it with the red number plate.
It's funny you say something about the Lehigh Forge excursion, because I was on that train.
Oh, really?
That was the birthday present that we got my mother for her 50th birthday. Because we used to know a family friend who operated 759, who went by the name of Mr. Dahl. Sadly, he has passed away. But
peace.
We got the whole family tickets to go behind 765 on the Lehigh Gorge trip. And I remember we were pulling into Jim Thorpe, and there was just this whistle battle going on that woke me up as I was asleep in one of the coaches.
Oh man, that whistle battle always, as a kid, for me, I'd always just always be like, man, why couldn't I have gone there when I was younger, just to see that beautiful moment, just the bond between two railroads.
Yep, and then we disembarked off the train, and they did a photo run-by afterwards.
Oh man, that must have been good.
Oh, it was wonderful. And I didn't even realize that I had seen 425 at that point. I had no idea where we were. I didn't know that was the Reading and Northern and it was that popular. So I go home thinking of nothing but 765 and completely forgot that 425 ever existed until like 4 or 5 years ago when the Reading and Northern pops up that they're restoring the T1. And then I remember seeing that little blue 462. I'm like, oh, that's what that was.
Personally, just getting back on the topic of the paint schemes and whatnot, I like the darker blue, I like the lighter blue, but recently I've been infatuated with the blue it wore back in 1992. As I was told about it, they were getting advice from a former Reading engineer who actually saw the Pacific that inspired that paint scheme, which was a G1, I believe, number 201.
I didn't know that Reading ever painted anything blue.
Wow.
Yeah, that was they did also use blue on the Crusader, but the Crusader did not inspire the 425. The 201 did.
Huh.
Look that up right now.
I was always told it was the Blue Comet.
That's the Reading 201?
Yeah, I don't think there are any color photos of it, but if you look, there's actually, I'll post in the chat, there's a eBay photo that I have saved under the watch list. And this could just be me, but if you zoom into the boiler, you could tell that's too light of a color to be a black boiler.
Oh, let's see here. Oh yeah,
that is definitely not. That is not your standard Reading black.
Yeah, I think the reasoning was, I don't know if there was any set reason why they did that. Maybe because they felt like it, because it's definitely different, especially from what I'm told, or just, again, I can't speak tonight. I have so many thoughts, but just based on what I've been told, it was a different shade of blue from any railroad. Like, it wasn't Baltimore and Ohio blue, it wasn't Royal blue or any of that. So basically what this Reading engineer did for the Reading and Northern back in 92, he didn't run the 201, but he remembered seeing the 201, so he helped them create the paint shade that they used for the 425, and it was purely based on memory from the 201. So that was the closest that the 425 ever looked to being a Reading G1 Pacific.
Yeah,
at least in terms of paint scheme.
On the subject of Pacific still, what is your favorite Pacific?
Good question.
Had to choose one, scrapped or alive, what is
it?
While you two choose, I'll state mine, and it may be a bit overrated, but I've got to say that the CNJ G3 in the Blue Comet is just gorgeous. You've got that nice deep blue color with the gold accents. Oh, it's amazing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I honestly used to see posters of the Blue Comet CNJ. I think I almost actually ended up getting an O gauge G3, but It probably would have been the underscaled one, but And I actually couldn't come down to one. My bad. Kind of two, and one is inspired, and one is just one that I love. I'd like to see again. So I'd say the number one spot for me would probably go to the U.S. Sugar 148. I mean, I'm not sure if you two have seen it IRL, but when that thing, I chased the ice cream special that it did back in May, and they only did say about 25 miles per hour. But I've been watching recent videos of it lately, and there's a special train they run called the Lake Placid Limited out of Lake Placid, Florida, to Clewiston, and it's all level tracked, straight tracks. So if they want to do 40 or over, they can do it. Just crank the throttle and they'll just do 40. And I can imagine it's probably hard catching up with the train, but yeah, that thing, it's just amazing how Pacific can just go to 40 just like that. It's just crazy.
It just takes its stuff and walks.
Yeah. And then the second choice for me, it's been looked down upon by the railroad community, but it's definitely inspired me to do some things. But I'd have to say second Pacific for me would have to be the ATSF 3415. Originally it was some of my best friends' favorite steam locomotives, and I never really paid mind for it until people recently started posting stuff about it. And people were just saying how it was a shady operation or something like that, and I was like, really? So I took a deeper look into it, and I mean, it may go slow, but it just looks like a powerhouse. If you could throw it on the main, it would definitely be a powerhouse.
If it's taken care of properly, anything can do that, yes.
Yeah.
Now, as for the Aberdeen Central, I know for a fact that they're doing everything they can to keep that locomotive as well maintained as they can. And I am on their side of the whole thing. It's an oil burner. It's going to have blowback. It is just a thing you have to deal with oil burners. And I don't appreciate the whole thing that they're getting online either. But
oh yeah, people in say Facebook have literally spoke to I think the owner even chimed in a Facebook comment, because the guy was saying you guys should just close your entire operation or something like that, and I'm like, okay, that's not cool. Come on, just over say with 3415 having a blowback. And I mean, I can see that ANSV has done some stuff in the past that really hasn't painted them in a good light. However, I think they're trying to grow on their mistakes and improve, and that's what I like to see. So
I love a railroad that can improve upon its past mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned in our private chat that you wanted to talk about railroad workers and some that we admire. So you have the floor. Go right ahead.
Thank you. So, I can assume a lot of us have been to the Strasburg Railroad, right?
I have myself, yes. That is how I met Dan here, was at the 611 Grand Farewell.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's. I think I might have seen you two out there. I could be mistaken, but I was out there Saturday, Sunday. But
did you see anybody in a strange-looking World War II uniform with a whole bunch of weird foamers?
I could have. I might have actually. I mean, there was a lot of people out there, and I rode one of the 475 excursions on Saturday, so there's a chance I probably saw you line side.
You probably saw us line side then, unless we were getting lunch.
Yeah. But railroad workers I admire. So Strasburg Railroad, I've been there all these years, and there's just a railroad figure that that was there that actually I rode behind. He's an engineer, fireman, etc., wears a lot of hats. And a lot of the excursions, powered by certain locomotives, he's ran. And I didn't even know it until I met up with him this past January. His name's Mr. Dan, I like to call him. Look, I usually see him, actually, these past few times I've been to Strasburg, it was basically to meet up with him, and he's been teaching me a lot about the railroad about how it is to be in the railroad force. He's actually let me up in actually all three of the running locomotives. There's cabs, the 90, 89, 475, and it's mainly just for us to have a chat. And then recently in May, he actually let me in the what's it called, the engine house, to get some photos of the 475 after it was done with its run for the day. And basically, I don't know how my mom put it. I don't know really how my mom puts it, but she's inspired me and told me how to do a lot of good things. So I'll basically use a few of her words here. If you weren't aware, or haven't known, I'm a African American individual, and she's always seen equality, and basically what she sees in my engineer friend, Mr. Dan, just exposing me and other folks of diversity to the railroad community. And I noticed that too, and it was just really inspiring. So he's definitely a railroad worker that I admire, and someday I'd love to be him one day.
I can get behind that story.
Oh, okay.
I think that is a wonderful thing that gentleman is doing for you.
Thank you.
I myself have no issue with anybody in the community doing anything, as long as you don't become aggressive with anybody. I don't care. Your race, your background, nothing. We're all people. It means nothing to me.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. It's good to hear. Yeah. Only thing that bothers people in the railroad community is just if you screw up like bad. And definitely recently there have been people that have screwed up pretty bad, and most of them are out at the Reading and Northern. Here's something silly. Who do you know paces through the trees? Paces through the trees.
I don't.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, exactly my point. 2102 is going through Lake Hato. We're all on the main road trying to beat it to at least hometown. And then there's just this man leading the photo line of cars, just pacing 2102 through the trees. Yeah, it was really silly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant like he was like driving through the trees, not like.
Oh no!
I don't
like
know what
pacing the train through the trees.
Oh, okay. That I see why they do that. I thought you said like he was like driving through the trees, because I'm like, that'll do some damage to the car and whatnot.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't wait till I drive, but I'm never gonna do anything reckless enough to,
And while we're on the subject of railroad workers, I would like to go back onto the subject of my old family friend, Mr. Dahl.
Oh.
I don't remember ever meeting him personally, but my family members have. My grandfather was great friends with him, grew up with him, and he used to work on the Western Maryland.
Oh, wow.
He was one of the last, I believe, steam certified people on the WM. So when 759 came through with the Golden Spike thing, was it that they had? That was all the blue coaches?
The Golden Spike Centennial.
Yes. He was one of the few people that got to fire 759 because he was one of the few ones that still had his steam certification on the Western Maryland. So when the 759 came through, he was climbing into the cab, and he stated that it was the first time he'd ever been in a locomotive this large in a long time, and he was looking forward to it. And that experience just got him into the Preservationist and the Preservation Society to the point where he was the fireman on 2101 for the Chesney Steam Special.
Ooh. Speaking of big-time excursions, also, my engineer friend, Mr. Dan, he actually fired on the 7002 and 1223 doubleheader.
Oh, the one they did to Oh wait, how many of those did they do? Did they do that just one or?
The one to Philly. I think it was just one that they did. Yeah.
Okay, because I think one went to Enola Yard, unless that was the same excursion.
Might have been. I'd have to look back on the history.
But that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to broach the subject about, Ross Rowland, still kicking around in his, early, mid-80s? Something like that?
Wow. Really?
And I've heard speculation somewhere, I have no idea, and I have my doubts that this is true, but speculation is going around saying that the 250th anniversary of the American Freedom Train may be a thing. And the engine that is suspected to pull it once more is yours truly, the 2101.
The 01?
Pray they can get it out of B&O siding.
Or did they want the 2100 since that one's being restored?
They want the 01 to pull it once again. At least that's what I've been told. I know that it has been said that that engine will never run again, and I believe it. But if Mr. Rowland says that he wants his engine to run again, I have a feeling that man's going to find a way to do it.
Oh,
just the 01, or is he going to have others?
He wants the 01 to pull the East Coast, and that is as much as I know. I don't think that 4449 is going to pull it again. I do, however, see a possibility for the 700 to pull it. SPNS 700 when it's done.
Oh, yeah,
And
that could work.
maybe even the what's that Nashville steam locomotive they're doing, the Northern? Is that a Northern?
576.
I believe that one was another possibility, but I have no idea. Again, this is speculation I've been told from railfans
Big steam
that work
talking.
for other companies.
I mean, if we're talking big steam, like icons of big steam, they're probably if they wanted to go west, there's no doubt in my mind they probably want to have the 4014 had a few excursions.
They don't. It's in their opinions, from what I've understood, it is too overrated. Granted, yes, the Big Boy is America's locomotive, but I don't think they're going to trust 4014 in some fancy livery.
Oh yeah, true.
What about 844? It could at least be decked out in like flags and whatnot.
It probably would, but I don't know.
And the 844 hasn't steamed since 2019.
Really?
Yeah. But the only thing that I am aware of is the fact that Mr. Rowland has talked about getting number 1 back in service. And if going back in service, that means just an opportunity all for veteran T1s to go and have a celebration.
Oh, by the way, your mic is a little muffled. But yeah, having 4 T1s, man.
Granted, the 2124 will probably never operate. But even just pulling it out of Steamtown just for a small photo session would be worth it.
Or even having the session take place at Steamtown.
But even if it's just in the DNL yard, having 3 steaming T1s, even if the 01 or the 24 aren't steamed up, even having 2 of them steamed up, that would be an amazing sight. That would be the first time that they've seen each other probably since the Rambles.
Here's the thing. Good luck getting the 02 off of Reading and Northern.
Yeah, I know. I doubt that's going to happen.
Or
But
getting it anywhere near Steamtown.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. They hate Steamtown with a passion.
But I do see... Well, actually, I don't know if they hate Steamtown per se.
They hate the DL.
Yeah.
What I've heard is when they were doing something with 2102 restoration wise, I think Steamtown wanted a bigger fund, and Andy Muller just said to hell and just took it back. Because I think Steamtown was contracted to do a little bit of restoration work on the 2102. I think after 1990 or something. I don't know. This is what I've heard.
I wouldn't be surprised if that Steamtown went from a good reputable source to a government-owned piece of crap.
That only operates to 26.
For now. The possibility of that 462 coming back in operation is still talked about.
Oh, please. I want to see.
I stopped holding my breath on that one, honestly.
There's
I'll
more.
level with you guys. I used to volunteer at Steamtown, and I honestly had hope for the 3713. And I mean, I don't know all the details of what's going on now, but I mean, I'm not trying, and I'm not trying to bash anyone who's genuinely putting in an effort to restore it. Like, if you have the money, the willpower, and the know-how to do it, by all means, go for it. But I don't know how I feel about that. Like, it's a cool concept. I'd have to see it for myself, and I'd have to see what's going on and who's in charge of it for myself in order to really
accept the fact that it would actually happen.
Yes.
In my eyes, there would be more of a likelihood that 1361 would operate there before their own Pacific does.
Speaking of the 1361, how do you all feel about that? Like,
excited.
Do you guys?
I'm optimistic for it.
Do you have ideas of where it might run?
Horseshoe Curve.
With the naturally stupid Steam excursion policies right now, I don't think so.
Oof.
Or did you forget about that?
I forgot about it for a split second, then I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And
they signed off all Steam-powered trains right after they took away the 611 excursions back in 2000s?
2017, I'd say.
Fair, because 765 did operate on shared Norfolk Southern and Reading Northern asset track.
Yeah. I mean, 1361, though. I mean, here's what... There's this... I don't know if you've seen this one guy called PR1361 on Instagram, right?
I might have. I don't know.
Yeah. He's been, like, speculating on where the 1361 will go. And to what he said Strasbourg or somewhere on the main line. And to be fair, if they can get it to Strasbourg, pray it doesn't end up like 611 staying God knows how many years.
Well, to be fair, 611 staying up there that many years wasn't exactly the Norfolk Southern's fault. That was Virginia Museum of Transportation's fault.
Oh, yeah.
Because the owner of 611 did not have the money to take her back home immediately.
Sadly.
But on a good news for us East Coast boys, that meant more time to see 611 up north.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, if I would have... Because first time I saw 611, of course, was 2019, and that's when I was actually entering the hobby. Like, I just had an old... I think I didn't even have a phone. I think I had, like, an old school tablet in, like, 2019. Was taking video of the 611, and, man, that was just, like... If 611 would have just like been up and gone after 2019 and that was my only memory or photography wise I had of it, would have been pretty ashamed of myself. But then it came back. So then I got my recently I've seen myself that I have improved and, caught some good shots of the thing.
And now we have the opportunity to go see it operate on the Durban and Greenbrier down in Virginia.
Oh no, the Buckingham branch actually.
It's Buckingham branch. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, that's all right.
Oh God, the thought of when you said that, I was like, oh wait, what? Because that would have been scary to think of.
Yeah, no, I don't think the 611 can handle that steep of grade.
Oh,
I mean, it's tackled Saluda back in '94.
I completely forgot about that excursion.
92, I'm sorry. Or was it 94? It was somewhere in there.
It had like 4 to 6 lightweights and still stalled, but yeah.
That's because it was like, that's like the steepest grade. It almost made it.
Isn't Saluda like 6.5 or 8%?
Something like that, yeah.
It's around 7, I think I've heard.
And it's around 7, and Cass is around 16.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, so then if that's the case, what's these plans with the 604 that I've heard about?
I'm not too sure.
The BCNG 604?
Yeah, I mean, if they got
I
grades,
believe that's for the Durban and Greenbrier. That's for the so they don't have to run a Shay on it.
oh, well then in that case, then it's perfect for that. I mean, it's definitely an upgrade from when it used to operate at the NCTM, just shuffling trains around.
It's also going to get some well-deserved love and attention.
Oh yes, definitely.
And it's a 280, so it should be able to handle just about anything.
Speaking of, actually, didn't Cass or Durban have other like diesel locomotives, say like BL2s? I heard.
I believe that was Cass. Cass has a BL2 or a GP7 or something.
Yeah, because they did something called a locomotive race or something with the BL2 and the Cass 5.
I only thought they did that with like the Shays and the Heislers.
Yeah, I guess they took a BL2 up to either Whitaker or one of the photo. I think it was past Whitaker because it was on a double track, I believe. Yeah, it was on a double track. They did that. I remember watching that as a kid, and knowing what I know now, I'm just thinking to myself, how did they even get that up there?
Probably towed it with a Shay, if I'm being honest. Or just crawled it up there and notched 3.
Oh, yeah. Considering it is a switchback line.
On the subject of Whitaker, which I don't know why this brought my brain to this, the Alaska Railroad S160. What are your thoughts on that coming back into service?
The Alaska, which one?
The Alaskan Railroad 280.
Oh, the S160.
Yes.
Oh, the 557.
Yes. Have you heard about that, or is this a new one to you?
Oh no, I've seen progress on it, and I'd like to go see it. Here's my thing though. I looked at it, saw it was pretty cool, but then my mind just went to something else. So sadly, I don't know where it is and what the progress on it is.
There is a YouTube channel about it. I will see if I can link it in the description of this video. The latest update that I was aware of is they did a hydro test on it, or something like that, or they put air in the boiler, whatever, and got the tender hooked up. And it's possibly another 5 years until operation.
Oh, another S160 operating. That would be nice.
But it's going to stay in Alaska on mainline services going up and down the lines. So possibilities for Alaskan steam looking good.
So that's where I narrow this down to. If I'm going to shoot that, I'd also want to shoot the White Pass and Yukon route. And it can be steam, it can't be steam, don't matter. However, now that we are getting on the topic of Alaskan steam, recent post by the White Pass actually showed them firing up the 73 after a good long time for a static display for one of their events. But they did announce that the 73 would be coming back to operating steam-powered excursions on the White Pass.
That's nice to hear. I myself have never been out that far west, and I probably won't be doing that for a long while.
Oh yeah, I'm telling myself this right now. If I ever even go west up to say Durango or Cumbres, I'll probably be around my 20s if I ever do that.
The only vacations I have planned for myself is a nice week in the Welsh countryside next summer.
The Welsh countryside.
I'm going to go and play with 2-foot gauge.
Ooh, yeah, there we go.
Because out there, you don't have to be steam certified to go and push a throttle lever.
Wow, really?
You pay £5 and you push the throttle lever.
Yeah, I've actually tried to get it to the, not sure if you've heard, the Talyllyn Railway.
Yes, the Talyllyn.
Oh, yep. And what I've tried to do is when, growing up, I was always a fan of the Thomas the Tank Engine series. So one day I wanted to knock out just regular operations with the regular locomotives. And then the next day where they throw the faces on them, which is kind of cool, where they kind of transform the line into the Scar-Lowy Railway, which is honestly just the neatest concept I've ever seen, which is something I'd like to do.
I would like to get out there for that. That's probably when I'm gonna go next year. But seeing as we are at 1 hour, I want to ask Dan if you have any more or one last story that you want to try and share with us, so we can wrap this recording session up.
Sure. I forgot exactly what made me think of this. But I did want to get back to a question that we had earlier that I didn't get to answer, which was favorite Pacifics. You guys had mentioned the Central Jersey G3 and the U.S. Sugar 142. I mean, there are a lot of Pacifics, those included, that I think are pretty cool, but honestly, it's kind of a cross between the 425 and the Canadian Pacific G5s, namely the 1278 for me.
Oh,
those are both fair choices.
And the Southern PS4 is also pretty good, but I don't know, 425 really won my heart the last couple years I got to see her. And the 1278 is always that locomotive that I kind of dream about, and kind of in the sense where you kind of envision it where in a world where it's steamed up again.
Yeah, or in a world where it just didn't have an explosion and it was just a regular operating locomotive that everyone foamed over.
No, I kind of more envision it like a what if scenario, like what if someone else bought her after the explosion and maybe like fixed her up, gave it the overhaul it needed, and put her like on like a short line or something.
Yeah.
On the subject of Canadian steam, I think this will be our final subject. Any words you guys want to put out there about the Canadian Hudson that's coming back into service for the transcontinental? Well, no, not transcontinental.
Oh yes, I think that would be
the North American excursion, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that thing. Actually, if they were going to run it this year and I had time to plan, what I was going to do this year was I was going to go because the 2816, it's me and a few friends were tracing its route because, it's going to go from Canada, United States, then Mexico. So we traced the route that it would go down, and we have looked at Kansas that it will be stopping in. So what I was going to do with my mother was we would go to the Abilene and Smoky Valley before the 2816 got there and knock out the 3415, and then get the 2816 in and around Kansas, and then when it leaves, head back home to the East Coast. So I can knock out 2 steam locomotives in, say, like 3-4 days, I'd say.
That's a fair choice. That is provided that the Aberdeen and Central, or whatever it is called, I'm sorry, has the...
Abilene and Smoky Valley.
Aberdeen and Smoky Valley. That is provided that still has the Pacific running this year if nothing goes wrong, which I hope nothing goes wrong.
I don't think they can extend the flu time anymore, so I think she is going down this year. But, there's always a silver lining to when it'll come back.
Yes. Hudson?
Not much to say about it. It's pretty cool to see a Class 1 railroad besides the Union Pacific that has a steam locomotive of their own like that.
Yeah, I will completely agree with you that I think more of the Class 1s should maybe try to preserve their heritage with steam locomotives.
Yep. Norfolk Southern, take notes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Please, even CSX, take notes. Let the 614 run on your own lines.
Actually, I think that they would let the 2716 go first.
I think they would too, and I am excited to see that thing back in operational status.
Same here, man.
seeing a C&O Kanawha that's not being masqueraded as a nickel plate Berkshire, hint hint, would be nice to see.
Oh yeah, definitely. Actually, one more thing about Canadian Steam. There was a time where there were a lot of CNR and A's actually in operation. Now there's only one, being the 89 at the Strasbourg, and that actually got me curious. And at my recent rail camp at the Wilmington and Western, not sure if you two know, but they actually own a CNR E10A, the 92, which is it's in their back shops, and I got a good look at it. And yeah, there's no likely that thing's ever going to run again, but it was a really neat concept to see. And the Middletown and Hummelstown 91 is up by the in Middletown, Hummelstown. And there's no saying if that thing's going to return to operation either, but it was just a fascination to me that we had like at least 3 of the same class of locomotive operating, and now there's just one.
Yeah, I will agree with you, but those locals are built like tanks, and I'm almost certain that they're going to still have at least one in operation for a long time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, well, I think that wraps this episode up. Thank you all for participating. Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Zion.
Thank you.
You're welcome, man. Thank you for having us, man.
It's not a problem. If you two are ever interested in coming back on the show, you know you can contact me. And for the viewers that are hopefully watching this, if you are interested or know somebody that might be interested or has worked for the railroad, please get in contact with me. I would love to have them on the show. I am Mr. J, signing off. Good night.